Hi everyone, my name's Dana Sharp. I'm from Wisteria Herbs, so if you're looking for me on the internet, I'm at wisteriaherbs.com. And today I'm going to talk to you about wild plants for the spring garden. We're going to talk about particularly what grows in the spring and what you can put in your yard and what you can use it for. First I wanted to talk about violet. So violet's a really nice plant. I have some here I wanted to show you. So if you've ever seen these guys in your yard, these are actually edible. These are little wild violets. And here are the leaves. They're kind of heart-shaped. So if you're interested in planting these in your garden, what you can do is you can actually transplant them from your yard into your garden. That's what I like to do. I like to shortcut it that way. So wild violets are great. I eat them in salads all the time. They're nice and tasty. You can just pick them right up and eat them. They grow in the shade. So this is really important if you're planting violets. You want to put them in the shade. They're very happy there. Another nice shade plant that grows in the spring is chickweed. So if you've ever had chickweed before, this is probably my favorite spring green. I use it in salads all the time. I just pick it and eat it, honestly. Now, the best way to identify chickweed is by looking at the stem here on the plant. So you may not be able to see it in this video, but there's a single line of hairs on the stem, and when I rotate it, you'll see it's only in one place. So they're kind of there, but see, it goes away. So there's just one line of hairs. It doesn't go all the way around. It's just one this way. Here are the leaves. They have these pretty little white flowers. You can look these up online if you want better pictures, but you can just pick the stuff and eat it in salads. It's really, really good, mild tasting. Even people that are really picky about plants, they'll usually eat this if they'll eat iceberg lettuce because it tastes so similar. Another great green for your garden is cleavers. So I don't know if you've ever picked cleavers. This is also called bed straw. And cleavers is very sticky. So if you're ever wondering if you have cleavers, it's usually stuck to you by the time you find it. Here's the leaf pattern. This is so hard for me to show you. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, probably 8 leaves around the stem in a circle like that. Some other varieties have different amounts of leaves, so don't fret if yours has a different amount of leaf, but surefire way to find cleavers is it looks like this and it's sticky, and sometimes in the summertime they'll put out little balls. These are the burrs that stick to your dog's fur whenever they come home and they've been in the woods for a while. It comes from cleavers. Now, cleavers is really great to cook with. So because it's so sticky, it's not really palatable, but you can put it in soups and pull out the nutrients that way. And what's nice about cleavers is it's also a diuretic, and it helps get rid of excess moisture in the body. So if someone has a problem, say, with edema or their lymph fluids aren't moving properly, a soup with cleavers in it is going to be very, very helpful for cleaning out the lymph system and moving that fluid out of the body that's not properly doing that. So, and this is a plant that likes to grow in the sun, so you want to put this in the sun. It does like cooler temperatures, but it's not too picky because it's a wild plant. The chickweed that I talked about earlier, chickweed is picky. Chickweed likes 60-degree weather, sunny, so it wants it to be really cool outside, but it likes full sun, which means we find it a lot in the spring, early spring, and late fall is when it tends to grow. Now, if you want to keep this year-round, the best place to put it is under a bush somewhere where it's shaded and it stays cool, because it will die if it gets too hot, but it tolerates different amounts of sun and shade better than it does the heat. So if you have any questions, feel free to type them below in the comments. That way I can answer them. I see somebody watching me, so I know you're there. So feel free to ask me questions because I want this video to be for you and for your benefit. So another plant that I want to talk to you about is purple dead nettle, and this is purple dead nettle. It's another spring edible. It has very soft leaves. You've probably seen this before. You see the little purple flowers there on the stem right here. And when these get really big, the leaves will actually turn kind of purplish. They'll get that hue on them. And what's very unique about this, how you know you have purple dead nettle, is that the stem is square. So this right here has 4 sides. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4. It's very distinct. See how the stem is square? This means that you found a plant in the mint family. So this is related to the mint family. It doesn't taste anything like mint. It honestly doesn't have much of a taste. But I like to eat it in salads a lot of times. I'll put it in like a strawberry salad because it's a very soft green and the texture is nice. Another nice wild edible is ground ivy. So you've probably seen this before and you probably hate it because this is the most tenacious plant ever. It will grow in sun, it will grow in shade. It's an ivy for a reason. It spreads all over the place. It sends out these little runners here and digs into the ground. But this plant, if you smell it, it smells amazing. It's also in the mint family, and I think it kind of smells a little bit like sage, but it's a little fruitier. And I use this as a seasoning, as spice. Now the best way to identify this plant is to smell it. Honestly, I like to smell this. So you can plant this, again, in the shade, in the sun, and it's not picky. This is another nice spring plant. Another good one that I like to talk about is sheep sorrel. So this is sheep sorrel, and it is second to chickweed on my list. It's one of my favorites. Sheep sorrel likes to grow in the sun, and it sends out runners. So what's great about sheep sorrel is it forms this beautiful mat on your garden. So if you're looking for ground cover, sheep sorrel is a really good way to go. So if you find this in the wild, I like to take wild plants and transplant them into my garden so I can have them for whenever I want to eat them. So if you're looking to do this, I suggest you kind of get comfortable with identifying things and go out into the field and find them, take your shovel with you, dig it up, take it home and transplant it in your garden, and then next year you'll have a beautiful selection of wild plants to choose from. So I'm going to talk next about this really common one. This is dandelion. You guys are probably really familiar with dandelion. So here are some leaves. Dandelion is interesting because it has different leaf shapes. It can look like this. It can look like this. It can look like this. It can have both the rounded and the flat kind of tip to it. So don't get fooled. I mean, the surefire way to identify dandelion is by looking at the flower. So go find this dandelion flower. It's kind of small, and there are some lookalikes, but fortunately all the lookalikes are edible. So if you get the wrong one, don't worry about it. And these you can plant in your garden. They like full sun. But they tolerate part shade as well. So if you transplant them in, it's okay to put them in a little bit of a shady spot. So dandelions are good. You can kind of munch on them in salads. I really don't care for the taste. Honestly, a lot of people eat them because they're easy to identify. But I think chickweed and the violets and the sorrel taste a lot better. So I recommend having those plants first before the dandelion. Let's talk about onions. So these are wild onions. You guys probably have a ton of these in your yard and you probably spray them to kill them because they're annoying, but you don't need to. You can just eat them. So if you look here on the bottom, there's a little bulb. So this is our itsy bitsy tiny wild onion bulb. And if you're worried about identification, the only thing that's going to look like wild onion is wild garlic, and it's also edible, so you don't really need to worry about it. Surefire way to identify is to smell it. And if it smells like onions, it's an onion. And you can transplant these into your garden anywhere, sun, shade, they'll grow. And then you can have these year-round to eat the greens, eat the little white bulbs, and they're really tasty. They taste just like chives, but they're easier to grow. That's why I'm talking about this today, because all of these wild plants are super, super easy to grow. You can put them in the ground, water them once or twice, and never come back. And you'll have a beautiful garden full of edible stuff. Wild plants are very tolerant of harsh conditions, which is why it's great to plant them, because they're low maintenance. So I wanted to talk about wood sorrel as well. It's not out quite yet. It's a little bit too cool for it. But wood sorrel is commonly confused for clover. This is a white clover. Has these little 3 leaves, right? Wood sorrel looks very similar to this, but its leaves will actually fold up like this. They'll kind of, can't quite do it, they'll fold up. So when it gets cool outside, the leaves will fold like this, and they have little yellow flowers instead of white flowers. And so when you see those coming out of the ground, it might be a good idea to get your shovel and dig those up and put them in your garden. If you have any of this growing, this is a delicious spring edible when it comes up. This is Oregon grape. So it's not native to the southeast region, but people plant it as ornamentals all the time. So you can walk around your neighborhood and see these, and they'll have berries growing on them, and you can eat the berries. And people don't know it, and they're growing food in their yard, and they don't know it. So normally what happens is this will come out of the stem. You'll have a couple of these like around the central stem, and they'll send out these big clusters of purple berries. Those are Oregon grape berries. There's a lot of different types, so they look different, but they're still all Oregon grape. They are edible when cooked, so make sure you cook them. You aren't eating them raw. And they taste great when you put some honey in them. They're really sweet and tart, and you can make jams and jellies and pies and all kinds of stuff out of them. So that's a nice little tip. You can plant this in your garden as well. Very tolerant of all types of conditions. Really great plants. A couple others that I wanted to mention that I don't have plants for, but you might want to transplant into your garden, are going to be poke. Poke is nice if you get the young plants. Make sure you get the young plants, and you want to boil them a couple of times before you eat the leaves, otherwise they'll make you sick. But they're super good for you. They clean the lymph system. So if you want to go through the effort of picking the plants and boiling them a couple times, they're like a super duper health food. And they grow in all types of conditions. Sun, shade, really tolerant. They don't need watering hardly. Some of the other things this time of year that are up are garlic mustard. And garlic mustards are really great plants. It's an invasive, so it grows very readily, which I would not recommend putting garlic mustard in your yard because it will take over and you won't be able to get rid of it. The same with this ground ivy stuff. I don't plant it in my garden because it takes over, and that can be really hard to deal with sometimes. Another plant is the wild mustards. There are a lot of wild mustards around this time of year. They come up early in the year. They usually have little yellow flowers. They'll get pretty big, about this big, and you can put those in your garden. Another one is the wild lettuces. So wild lettuces are great. They're out this time of year. You can, again, when you're out around the neighborhood, take your little shovel with you, and if you see a wild lettuce, dig it up, take it home, put it in your garden, let it grow, and then you can have it year-round. That's what I like to do. And then we also have yellow dock. Yellow dock is a really nice plant as well. So yellow dock, you can eat the leaves if you boil them in a couple changes of water the same way you do the poke. and it's super tolerant of all types of conditions, shade, sun. Again, you hardly need to water it, so once you put it in your garden and you water it once or twice, it's done. Like, you will have food. You don't need to take care of these plants. They're very self-sustainable. That's why wild plants are great. You can also forage for bamboo this time of year because it's starting to come out of the ground. Stinging nettle. Earlier I had talked about the purple dead nettle, and this is a relative of the nettle, but it doesn't sting you. Great for salads. I'm going down my list right now, which is why you see me glancing off to the side. There's also greenbrier, which can be a little hard to identify, but you can eat the young shoots. It's hard to identify because there's 100 species, maybe something like that grow in our area, and they all look kind of different. But if you're interested in identifying those, email me and I'll get you an identification guide. Also, raspberry leaves are fantastic. Raspberry leaves you can harvest this time of year. They're very easy to identify because on the stem of the raspberry leaf, instead of the single spikes like blackberry, you have like fuzzy spikes, and that's characteristic of raspberry. So they're really easy to find because the stem is so easy to, it's unique. And this time of year without the leaves on stuff, you can find it really easy when you look through the woods. And the leaves are just starting to come out. You can use those for tea. They're very high in vitamin and minerals, so they're great. They're traditionally recommended for pregnant women because they're so high in vitamin and minerals. That's something that, again, you can transplant those wild raspberry bushes into your yard and have those year-round for you to eat. There are also lamb's quarters, which are a great food. I kind of am laughing about this because lamb's quarters, again, are one of those plants that takes over your garden, and I planted lamb quarters, and it has taken over my garden. I started with 3 plants the first year. I took my little shovel and I dug up some plants, transplanted them in my garden. 3 plants. Second year I had 30 plants, and I'm really scared to see what's gonna be in my garden this year because I see the little like young plants starting to come up, and there's like a mat of them. So if 3 went to 30, then 30 might go to 300, so I'm a little worried about that. But lamb's quarters are a great green to eat. They're kind of like a little bit tougher than spinach, but because they're so easy to grow, it's food that you don't have to take care of. You want to get it while it's young. Once it gets old, it gets tough, and you'll just need to cut it down and get rid of it. It doesn't taste good. But springtime, lamb's quarters are very delicious and tasty. Another fun one is redbud. So if you have a redbud tree in your yard, guess what? The flowers are edible, which is awesome. So you can take your little redbud flowers, the little pink ones, and put those into a tea. And these are great tasting. They taste kind of nutty, and they're nice for lymph movement. So if you have skin conditions of any type, this will really help clear them up. It might not do all the trick, but it'll definitely help. So you can make a tea out of these. It tastes great. It looks beautiful because you have little flowers in a cup. So these are a nice one to put in your garden, is the redbud tree. And I wanted to mention just briefly some other plants that are not specific to spring, but they tend to grow year-round. And these are things you can forage for, you can put in your garden. They'll be there with you all the time, and you can always eat them. Don't need to water them or take care of them. They're quite self-sustainable. So the first one is white pine. White pine is a nice edible. You can make a tea out of it. You can also put it in baking. So you use the little needles, and the best way to identify white pine is it's going to have 5 needles in a cluster. So pine, it will normally have off the stem a little needle cluster, and there will be 5 in there, and that's white pine. The only other one that has 5 needles is in the west US, so you don't have to worry about it if you're on the eastern coast, unless it's a species that you don't find it very often, then you might want to double check. But if you're seeing it like on every street corner, it's probably a white pine. Another one is eastern hemlock. Eastern hemlock is delicious, and it's a conifer, so you can put this one in your garden as well. Do the same. You can make teas out of it, put it in sweets, and bake with it, put it on meats. And sassafras. I love sassafras, and it's a wild plant, so what you can do is take your little shovel, go wander in the woods, find your sassafras, dig it up, take it home, plant it in the shade. Sassafras is a shade-loving plant, so it needs to be in the shade, otherwise it's not going to survive. And it does need quite a lot of water, so you might have to baby this one a little bit more than your other wild plants. But you can grow sassafras in your yard, and you can eat the leaves. So sassafras leaves are used for gumbo. They are the gumbo fillet. That's actually the leaf. So if you want to take some of those leaves and dry them and save them, you can use that in your cabinet all the time. So that's a year-round plant that I like to have in my garden for use. And those are all of the wild plants that I have for you today that are specific to spring. The last one I mentioned was year-round. So I'm just going to show you those really quick one more time. Chickweed. Chickweed, again, you want to plant this in a cool area. It likes like 60 degrees, even 50 degrees it'll tolerate. Dandelion. Dandelion is a nice bitter. Again, this is shade and sun tolerant, so you can put this anywhere in your garden. Violets. Violets. This is the wild violets. Here are the leaves. This is a shade plant, so if you are transplanting this into your garden from your yard or somebody else's yard, don't tell them you're doing this. Put it in the shade. It won't grow in the sun. We have cleavers. You can put these in soups. They're very sticky, and they like all types of conditions. Purple dead nettle. Purple dead nettle, it likes sun, and it's in the mint family. It's got the square stem. I use that in salads. We have the ground ivy. Smells really nice. This will tolerate all conditions, sun or shade. The wood sorrel, or not the wood sorrel, sorry, the sheep sorrel. It's got these little tags down here. That's how you know you've found it. It forms a nice ground cover, a nice mat, and you can just munch on this year-round. It likes sun. And if you are looking to put some Oregon grape in your yard, this is Oregon grape. It grows in most people's yards because it's an ornamental, and it tolerates all sorts of conditions. Sun, shade. The berries are edible, so you can make jams and jellies and pies out of them, and it's delicious. So I highly encourage you all to use these plants in your garden because wild plants don't require maintenance. You put them in, you water them every now and then, not even that sometimes, you don't even have to do that, and you will have food year-round. Wild plants are great for this, so they're for the lazy gardener specifically. So if you have any questions about wild plants, feel free to email me at wisteriaherbs.com or wisteriaherbs@gmail.com, and my website is wisteriaherbs.com. You can find me on my Facebook page here. I also do herbal consultations, so if you're interested in, say, using some of these wild plants to improve your health, I specialize in that as well. We talked about some of these earlier in the video, the health uses of these specific wild plants and what you can do with them. So feel free to shoot me an email. If you want a written copy of what we talked about today, I have a copy on my website if you want to go there and just log, and there's a little box that says, do you want a free guide of spring edibles? Just fill out your email address and I'll send it right to you. And all these plants will be on there. So you can do that. Hi, Stephen. Hey. So I'm just finishing up, actually. If you have a question, go ahead and type it in, and I'll answer you. So those are the wild plants that I wanted to talk about today. They're great to go dig up from around your neighbor's yard. Don't tell them what you're doing, but transplant them into your garden so you can have them for use. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. Feel free to leave me a comment below if you have questions. Thanks for watching.